Here in Canada on the Cape Cod Baseball Network from Hyannis, Massachusetts, home of the Harbor Hawks for tonight's contest. And Schiff, it's cloudy and it's cold and it's windy and all of the above.
It's June on Cape Cod. You get days like this, and then you have the days like we had last week. It was 85, 90 degrees. You know, for the new guys, they're like, what the heck's going on here? For the guys who know New England, they're like, okay, this happens. So I'm not happy, but this is baseball in June on Cape Cod.
You know, from a guy who's been around the game a long time, how do you think the younger guys tend to deal with weather situations like this? Does it vary from person to person, or is it just a whatever?
Yeah, I think it does vary from person to person, although it probably is a little bit of a culture shock to somebody who's really never experienced cool weather. Guys from the Pac-10, unless they get up there in Oregon or Washington and it's bad up there, they're not really comfortable with this. They're not accustomed to it. And the guys from down south, deep south, it's probably a little, I'm going to say unnerving or a little, they're not accustomed to it for sure, but somewhere along the line they've probably played a little cold weather. But, you're thinking Cape Cod, you're thinking summer, and all of a sudden it's 55, cool, misty, yucky, but after the winter we had, this is fine. This is balmy compared to this winter we had up here this year.
How good was it to take two in Falmouth yesterday?
You don't know. A double dip is always good, and nothing about the city of town of Falmouth or the players of Falmouth. That's just a bad trip. You can't get there from here. You're stuck on Route 28. You're stuck on Route 149. It's just a dreary trip. So I'm glad we got it over with, and exceptionally glad we got a sweep out of it. God, that's awesome.
And speaking of Falmouth, the field conditions prevented us from playing on Monday, so we had to have the doubleheader yesterday. How did the field play according to the players yesterday, and how do you think it's going to play here in Hyannis?
Oh, they said it was fine yesterday. It was no problem. The outfield was a little rugged in Falmouth. It's going to be on a beautiful day because they've had to replace acres of land out there. So and Hyannis has the same problem here. There's a low spot, as you can see from here. Just right field just has a natural low spot. So we got to tell Fleischman, be careful, and you play baseball. This is kind of, that's the charm of the Cape Cod League, of course. We don't have the, absolutely immaculately well-groomed fields like they do in the, the Big 12 and the SEC and so forth. So it's part of the charm.
We've played 4 games. A lot of other teams have played 4 games, but Hyannis has only played 2, and Orleans has only played 1. If you were in the shoes of those particular managers, what would you be doing right now?
Well, I'd be a little concerned because you're backed up early. Nothing wrong with getting backed up late because you got your team in town in July and August, or late July anyway. You should have everybody in town. You should be, somewhat loaded with your entire staff. Now you've got temp pitchers. You might be thin like we are. We couldn't afford to be in a boat where we're going to play 8 to 10 games in a row right now. Obviously, guys are coming in the next few days, but I would be concerned, especially from Kelly, with that many games to make up. Chad's in pretty good shape, but early on, you're trying to keep your rosters, pared down as much as you can to not put so much pressure on your host families. And your housing coordinators, Mary Ann, has just about lost all of her hair the last several days. And I know if any of the other teams are going through what she's going through, it's very difficult. So it's going to be tough with your thin staff. So I feel bad for those guys.
Speaking of temp players, Keith Bilodeau coming in the other day. He will be getting the start tonight. Just give us an idea about the young kid out of Maine.
Well, he's a real good one, and he's a 25th rounder, I believe, and is hoping he might be able to come down here and tell the organization that drafted him that, I deserve more money than your first offer. We have a position or a spot for him. I know of his reputation. His coach is a dear friend of mine, and it's a good fit all around with the Maine kids that we've had and the Maine kids that we've had, in the past. So it works out pretty well, and we're looking forward to seeing him throw.
Seems to be a big pipeline there for the kids in Maine. We got 4 on the roster so far, and I remember in years past there have been quite a few kids out of the university there as well. I mean, you mentioned last year about the pipeline that gets set up between college programs and the Cape programs and the relationships that you set up with coaches of those particular programs. Like you said, you've got a pretty good relationship with the guys at Maine.
Well, it's a matter of trust from when Steve was at Manhattan. Steve knows the Cape. He has a family home in Brewster, so he's been to the Cape. He knows Chatham. He's gotten to know me over the years, and we've always treated his kids well, and his kids always perform very well for us. They're good kids. He only recruits good kids, and that's what we want. We want a kid that's going to come down here and try to get better, work hard, and be a good kid. And you get that from Maine. I mean, that's the kind of kid Steve brings in, and we'll take Maine kids as long as Steve keeps sending them to us.
Anybody new in town? I've heard through various grapevines that Steven Perez is on his way.
I understand that too. We have not seen him yet. I think the Big Bird lands at 5, or I'm not sure, but yeah, Steven should be in town. I think we're going to have a group of guys coming in the next few days. Buck Farmer is in the Northeast right now. Jaffe, I believe, is landing tomorrow. Dominic Leone is coming up tomorrow. Off the top of my head, I think that's all I can remember right now. It's pretty hectic for me too. Just remember that and trying to, teach a little class every once in a while. Teach a class. Although today my principal caught me texting in my classroom. We had to get something accomplished, and for today I'm trying to text Marianne. I'm trying to text Charlie, and there's my principal staring in at me. I'm like, oopsie, sorry about that. God, give the guy credit. He says it tis the season. Don't worry, and I really appreciated that.
Speaking of players coming in over the next couple of days, when you've got as many temp players as you do, and even if you only have a couple of temp players on the team, when the regulars start coming in, is there a process that you follow as to who to start letting go?
Right. Well, what we do is, you match up position by position, and pitcher comes in, more than likely pitcher's going to leave, and so forth. And we have guys, it's right here, as a matter of fact, we have guys that we're going to match up all the way to the World Series. And unfortunately, that's the rough thing. That's the next few days I have to be doing that, telling guys, unfortunately, when so-and-so gets here, you're going to have to go. And unfortunately, when so-and-so gets, like tonight, and he's been a great camper for us. Justin's been, Justin Connors has been phenomenal to come in, give us what we needed, an extra spare part there on the bench just in case. And he's had a great time. And, tonight, unfortunately, be his last game. But you know what? He'll always be a Chatham-A, and I think that's what's great about it.
He's John Schiffner. I'm Aaron Canada. It's the Manager's Show on the Cape Cod Baseball Network.